I'm going to try and make sure by the end of this video that you are not an atheist anymore.
Really? Really, Sean? Is that your intention? You really are a fucking idiot if that was your intention. In this video, why I'm not an atheist, and in your other video that I'm going to talk about here, your Who Made God vid, well, both of those videos are just chock full of things that I take issue with and are going to refute. To start out with, in this one you say that becoming an atheist is like school letting out, and you no longer have to follow the rules. Well, no, it's more like Santa Claus, finding out Santa Claus doesn't exist and that the presents don't magically come from him. Kind of sucks a little bit, but then you realize, your parents brought you the presents, and those presents are still there, so everything else that you believe to be in existence is still there, it's just not from quite the same source, and it doesn't quite hold the magic it used to. But then you take into account that it's not everything you have doesn't have to be attributed to some higher power. You can take credit for it yourself. And you also say that it is constant partying of atheists. Well, I don't know about you, but Christians seem to party just as much as atheists. But you talk about how it being purposeless and meaningless, and then you say that's kind of lame. Well, life is kind of lame sometimes, and it's also quite scary. Like you talk about with your quote from Nietzsche. Well, life is scary. I mean, when you're a believer, a theist, you have a safety net to fall back on, and you don't have that anymore. But of course, like you say, this isn't why you stopped being an atheist and became a Christian. You chose to be a Christian because Bible stories of Christians and Jews correlate to each other. You really are fucking retarded. Just because they have the same stories does not make the stories true. They can build off of each other. If this was the case, then Mormonism or Islam could be just as true as Christianity. Mormonism, they build off of Christianity, have some of the same stories. The Quran has some of the same beliefs. The Quran, actually, they don't find Muhammad to be a founder of any religion. They find him as somebody to restore the beliefs of Abraham and Moses and Jesus. So how can you say that the stories being correlating with each other proves it? It's just retarded. I mean, that would also prove that the Buddhism would be correct because it holds some of the same beliefs as Hinduism. Now, you talked about how the Jews rejected Christianity and the Jesuits accepted it. But didn't you say at the beginning of your video that you came out to be a Jew? Or started out as a Jew? Are you the exception that proves the rule? Another inconsistency there. Now, I also talk about the how a single cell could not have formed on its own. Well, the Earth formed roughly 4.54 billion years ago. Sorry, you're 6,000, 8,000, whatever it is, wrong. People that actually study things a little more scientific than the ages of fictional characters, adding them together, that's what they've come up with. Now they say life started about 3.7 billion years ago, which leaves 840 million years for life to have randomly started. So yes, it could have. And you also need to take into account all the planets in our solar system as other random chances for it, and then also all the other solar systems in the galaxy. So that's a lot of chance. You talk also about your mic coming into existence randomly. Well, actually it did, because we came into existence randomly, and it was through us that your mic was created. You also talk a lot of, like, in you referenced your other video at this point, and called Who Made God? And you talk about time, and you talk about matter. And you talk about, I know I'm not the first person to refute your argument about time. I think Cody Weber did it before. But you say that if time is infinite, we would never have reached this point. What you don't realize is that we're starting at zero going forward in infinity, but we also go back infinity. If you have a timeline, you go into negative numbers, it'll go into infinity as well. And also, your argument about matter just doesn't even make sense. You talk about matter, how matter can be infinite, and if you would have to double your keyboard, you could never double it enough times to be infinite. Well, that's not even what your argument was supposed to be about, to prove that matter cannot have always existed. Being an infinite amount of matter and matter being able to exist infinitely are two different things. But your argument doesn't even hold water in the argument you're trying to make. If you're not the one who needs to double it. It just has to exist in an infinite number. Now, you also link to 3 of your videos there to talk about how Christianity and the Bible prophesized things, and your links don't exist anymore. So I'm kind of thinking they were bullshit, like everything else in your arguments here. But also, the coming of Christ doesn't prove anything. I mean, the Bible is multiple books, but they're all put together. If you have a prophecy and then fulfill the prophecy in the book, that doesn't prove that the prophecy was correct. I could write a book about King Arthur coming back and being the once and future king and coming back. That doesn't mean that the Arthurian legends were real. So, everything you've said in both of these are bullshit. So your intention to turn people from being atheists into being theists completely failed.